What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another series of, say, the public streams, if you want to call it that, live breakdowns. Super excited to be here with you guys again. I know I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I would like to start doing these a bit more frequently. And I thought, yeah, might as well jump on here, chat a little bit about price action, chat a little bit about the Alchemy. We are into our first month with pretty much the new guys that have joined the team. Been a really good start so far. It's been really cool to see the support, so appreciate everyone that's kind of joined back in, that was either maybe with us in the past or, you know, for the new guys that are joining in. It's nice to sort of try grow the community a bit more. I think everyone is really enjoying things. We stepping it up, myself and AC, a little bit more. Definitely trying to get a little bit more involved with the community, really share our teachings and learnings as much as we can, and really help obviously trying to assist our students as much as we can on a day-to-day basis. So I thought let's dive into price action on Eurodollar and DXY. I'm going to try to keep this session a little bit more short and sweet. Break down maybe a couple of trades that were taken over the last month or so. Also, look into price action, say post FOMC. I think there's been some really interesting moves that we've already seen, and I think even if we just start on the weekly time frame, isolating this level of demand, say at the bottom here, from pretty much back in 2022, which is quite crazy, and we had this move basically pretty much since Trump inauguration in the beginning of this year. So literally spot on the 20th. I think his inauguration was around the 20th or so. We had this this really nice reaction out of Eurodollar, where we basically saw the inverse happening on the DXY. So we had this main drawn liquidity sitting at around 1.04526 take out. We then had this really nice run in liquidity over here too. So really showing that sort of V-shaped recovery of price action, pretty much looking something like this. I mean, I've shown this I guess shift in price, if you want to call it that. This is something that we use quite common on a daily basis, but basically you're seeing this drive into this low over here. So this would have been my run on liquidity over here, sitting at around 1.343 something. So price really, took out these lows. We found ourselves in this displacement area here too. Obviously this was mitigated in the past, but it's not to say that it can't be reused, and obviously that aligned with this area of demand sitting at around this 1.02 region. We had this run on the low here. We had this pretty aggressive move to the downside. We tapped into the demand, and then we obviously took a couple of weeks, but we flipped. First we flipped internally, so over here, and then we took out this external high sitting over here at around 1.06, and then from there on it's been pretty aggressive on Eurodollar. So we've seen price action move quite swiftly to the upside thereafter. I think that's been something that's been really interesting to watch over the last sort of 9 months or so, pretty much since the beginning of the year. I really want to also break down, how we analyze these specific macro potential plays on currency pairs within the Alchemy. Really showing you guys how we try and break down price action and obviously align our lower time frame intraday trading models around that. So if I just had to remove this displacement area here, you can see nice sort of run in liquidity over here. Then we had this shift in structure back to the upside, really aggressive from from these loads, and you know, we saw this move up here. We didn't really actually come sort of retest this demand area, so it's still sitting open down at the bottom. But yeah, once we obviously had this nice shift in structure, we then formed I guess you can say another displacement area, which we then obviously tapped into, and then we moved out of there quite swiftly. And ever since, we've just been following these more shorter term pullbacks, and really respecting these areas and continuing to push higher. So if we have a look here, you can kind of see that once we had broken through these highs over here, price action was obviously looking to be quite aggressive again to the upside, and this obviously all aligned with Trump and what he was sort of pushing for from a macro perspective. And you can see how price action has continued to just really come into these areas, move quite swiftly, but now we seem to have really taken our main drawn liquidity sitting at around 1.80, and I'm quite curious to see how price action might react from here. We might start to see maybe price cool off a bit. We might start to see some of these other areas of interest down at the bottom here potentially come into play. So wouldn't write this off. If we had to look at, say, what is happening over here, pretty much isolating the same sort of thing, right? This is quite a big area of interest over here on the left hand side, and you can see how we've come into this supply zone over here. If I had to really try and redefine it, you know, it would look something like this. So this would have been my initial sort of run on liquidity over here, and then we got this internal shift over here, right? So if I had to map that out, it looks something like this. And then it wasn't really confirmed. Are we going to be holding and say these demand areas here and continue to push the upside, or is this our new protected high over here? And you can see how price action came up in, even if you had to mark this out on an OTE level, pretty clean. Let me get my OTE out here quick. Wrong one. Sorry, still wrong one. So we had this this internal move, right? Came and rejected these areas around 1.22, and then from there we pretty much had straight free fall on euro dollar, and that was obviously from around 2021, where we bottomed out, say mid to end of 2022. So a really strong down sort of move, which was quite aggressive over that time frame, or over that time, when obviously the dollar was a little bit more stronger, and we saw price really kind of weakening on euro dollar specifically. And then obviously we've now over the years kind of find ourselves chopping around, and we're finding ourselves in this area here. So this for me is going to be quite interesting, because we haven't really visited these areas since a really long time ago now. And if you see how you're just applying the same sort of rules and principles, right, you can see how price action has kind of returned into the zone. So let's say if I'm marking out this as my sort of weekly range, you can see how we've come into this area now. We've taken these highs over here. I think I mapped this out with you guys previously as well, how we could be potentially, I think I originally had this area marked out over here, which I guess is my more external break, and I think we were looking at how price action was reacting here, as well as I think it was mainly around here, to be honest. So now you can see that price has obviously found itself back in this supply zone up here, And now it's a question of you know, are we gonna continue to see strength in the euro, or are we gonna maybe see some sort of cool off in price action, right? So are we gonna see something like this? You know, is this maybe our new potential high? Are we gonna maybe see a breakdown on price action, potentially rebalancing itself, so something like this? You know, are we going to see some sort of rebalancing down here and then continue to the upside again? So that's something I'm quite curious to see how this might play out for the rest of the year. You know, obviously we've got these main sort of draws on liquidity sitting above at around 122,698, and then obviously we have this our sort of main dealing range high here at around 1.23500. So if anything, you know, I'm going to be curious to see if price action, you know, maybe we get some shorter term pullbacks and then we continue to trade back to the upside and then we do something like this, or maybe we find ourselves breaking down, you know, and then doing something like that. So this is something I'm going to keep my eyes out on the weekly time frame. For now, you know, we've had this nice run on liquidity over here, and we seem to be rejecting this on the weekly quite nicely. So now it's going to be a question of you know, maybe do we see something like this low being run here. I would have these two lows marked out as my really key points, right? As well as this one. I don't know if we do pull back this much. It's quite a big pullback in my opinion. So we might just see, you know, some shorter term pullbacks like this and then continue higher. Or for example, we might just see price completely break and then do something like that. But if these lows here start to fail to hold, I'll be curious to see how price action returns. So for example, if you look over here, if these lows start to break down, I'd be quite curious to see if we can, you know, form some sort of shift and hold on say the daily time frame or whatever, get some sort of confirmation that we might be potentially moving back to the downside. That's what I would be looking for over here, and then obviously we can, you know, sort of shift our protected highs. So in that instance, if that does happen, right, and we do get this sort of double confirmation break to the downside, then this would be my new protected high. And then obviously I would really want to see how price action starts to react when we get down to these lows over here, and then see if we can continue to trade higher. We might run up here and take this before we even do this. So, you know, I'm not going to really sit here and try and predict that this move is going to happen. I'm going to just, you know, play whatever's in front of me when the moment is right. So that's been something I've been watching on euro dollar mainly. There's been some nice trades sort of coming in and out of these regions over the last couple of weeks. I think especially since we saw price action run this high over here. So I mean, if I had to break down on the hourly time frame, you know, we had this move happen post FOMC, which was, I think, last week Wednesday. So pretty much sitting in the same this big area of interest over here, and you can see this was our main draw sitting over here. We also had this buy side liquidity sitting at around 1.87850. So this was really clean. For me personally, I didn't take this setup mainly because it happened quite late into New York session, and it was also pretty much post FOMC news release. But if you have a look over here, our community members were really interested to see how price action would kind of react out of this main draw on liquidity here, especially considering we're in that weekly area of interest. We had our main draw here too, and obviously price action has many points to come down and potentially mitigate on the way down. So if you have a look here, I mean, obviously this is quite a massive supply area, and you can see post this news release how we came up, respected this, and then we obviously rolled over into the next day. But yeah, just looking at this, you can already see kind of how you've got these really key sort of areas of interest that kind of you know, form part of your execution time frame. So in this instance, I would have isolated this as my, you know, supply area, but within this supply area you've got many different things, right? So for example, this would have been like your BPR, that would have been summarized, something like that, which obviously is then very similar to, say, your displacement area, which was looking something like that. And you can see post news how we came back up, tested it, and then, you know, continued to roll over for a little bit. I actually want to play out this quite slowly because my trading view's been a bit wanked, a bit slow over the last couple of weeks, but anyways. But yeah, this was something that we were looking at, right? So coming into, I think this was the Thursday, so price action was obviously setting up to form some sort of, you know, market maker sell model, if you want to call it that. Some fancy ICT-esque words again. But yeah, I think what we were kind of looking for was to see how price action would hold. You know, if this is my new protected high sitting at 1.19, I really wanted to see how price action, you know, would trade up into these areas, and then look for something like this on the way down, right? Considering we have a lot of areas all sitting here. I mean, you know, you got Asia low sitting open here. This one was taken, I think this was on Monday or Tuesday. You've got some other internal draws on liquidity sitting here, so this was quite nice. And obviously this is like this is just setting the scene, right? So post FOMC, we see the rate cut, we see the intention for price maybe to start cooling off a little bit. You know, we've got these draws on liquidity sitting a little bit lower, and ideally what you're looking for is pretty much some sort of reaction back into here, and then price action to kind of continue like this, right? And you're looking for your order flow confirmation. So in this instance, if this area does start to hold, and this is my indeed true protected high, then you can start to really play those bearish order flow chains, right? And in this instance, that's exactly what you're looking for, right? This is the intention. So for example, this is your large distribution move to the downside. Now you're pretty much looking for something like this. You're looking for some sort of retracement into this area, right? And then pretty much some sort of confirmation of sorts, and then you're looking to trade back down to these areas right here, okay? And this is something that we were looking at more specifically on Thursday. We were looking to see how price action would unfold coming into London Open, for example. So if you have a look over here, this was something that we were quite interested in. We mainly had a lot of sort of internal points being taken out. So if you have a look over here, some sell side liquidity sitting over here. We also had some further sell side liquidity sitting at around 1.80, which was obviously forming part of our Asia low. So, you know, if you are looking to kind of capitalize on some price action moves, this would have been really nice. This would have been a really nice setup in terms of what you would be looking for. So pretty much into London Open. In this instance, obviously our main sort of trade bias in this scenario would be to look for these sort of shorts, but that's not to say that you can't trade in the contrary, so counter trend. So anything here now would be more counter trend, and anything here would be more pro trend, right? So in this instance, we were looking for some sort of pullback potentially to rebalance in this zone. So if you're marking this out as your recent dealing range and your recent price action, I guess if you want, yeah, dealing range is kind of the word that I use. But basically what you're looking for now is this internal buy side liquidity, which is sitting at around 1.829, which is our Asia high, right? For example, we're looking for price action to trade back into these highs over here, really try and give you a strong confirmation that price action is going to continue to the downside. So some sort of V-shape entry model, right? That would look something like that. And then you've got your mitigation back into this sort of area of interest or supply zone, right? And ideally you're looking for a pullback into this 50% zone. So if you can get all of the above, then that's great, right? So for us in the Alchemy, this is something that we were looking at, and which my partner AC broke down in the live trading session in the morning. And we had a really nice run on this internal sell side liquidity area at around 1.9 or 1.792. And this was a setup that we took live with the members in the morning, yeah, just before London Open as well, targeting around 2R, which is kind of what we go for, and obviously understanding that price might come into these areas, okay, and then really start to break down and shift to back down to the downside, right? So that was the main sort of trade idea coming into London Open on Thursday. And if you have a look over here, we really had a strong move to the upside, and eventually we got the 2R, which is great, and we had the tap into this supply area over here. Ignore my trading view. This always happens recently, but anyways, so we had that really nice shift to the upside, bagged the 2R, which is what we were looking for. We then knew that we were going to get some sort of reaction out of the supply zone. So for some of the guys, they look to trade both sides, obviously getting in and out as quick as possible, and then at the same time really seeing if they can capitalize on the actual pro train move in this instance, which was pretty much something like this. So you had your run on liquidity over here. This would have been my external break, so this would have been the internal break over here on the inside at around 1.8300. So if you're looking at that and you're really isolating what you're looking for on a daily basis, this is literally perfect. So we had two options. You could either have taken the counter trend, if you want to call it that, longs back into the supply area, and then once we'd obviously mitigated that, you could have switched your bias and gone for the shorts back down to the downside, targeting this as our main potential area of taking profit, and obviously this London low over here being maybe the first sort of stop, right? So if you have a look at these two areas over here, this is something then we were looking for on the downside. Some guys took it, some guys prefer not to trade more than say once in the day. It's fine, perfectly fine, up to you in terms of what you're looking for and what your sort of preferences. So for example, that would have been your counter trend long, then this would have been your potential pro trend short, and yeah, you can see after you would have got tagged around just before New York Open, and price swiftly moved into both, say, your 2R, fixed 2R if that's what you're looking for, as well as this internal sell side liquidity area, which was our, yeah, I think this was so this was Wednesday, this was Tuesday's Asia low in the end, and we moved really quickly here, which was quite nice. So in both instances, you didn't really have to spend too much time pondering over if the setup is going to play out in your favor, or if you were potentially waiting to see something else, right? So that was a really nice trade potential that you could have taken here. We had a really nice move. So obviously we took Asia low, early Thursday London Open. We then took Asia high over here, gave the nice setup, which was in alignment with our sort of overall bias. And then, you know, since then we've pretty much had price action stalling around and continuing to trade back down to the downside. Now, what can we maybe expect on the lower time frame? You know, coming into Friday, for example, something very similar. In this instance, now this would have been your new sort of area of interest, right? So remember what I was talking to you about earlier, about how you really look, if you may be a bit uncertain, or maybe you wanting to see price action sort of form a little bit more before you jump in. This would have been a great example of that, right? So for example, you would have now got confirmation that this area of interest is indeed reactive. It's holding, it's true. This can be my sort of intraday protected high. And now you can see that this is obviously forming again, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we open tomorrow and we see some sort of run on this internal chop liquidity over here, and maybe potentially we pull back into this area again. So it's not to say that this area might not be relevant again. It could very much well be. And if you have a look here now, I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see price action maybe chop up a little bit more, and you know, maybe we run this high again and we start to show our hands again, right? So that's something I'm going to be looking for. This is the most recent order flow, not necessarily taking into account what, say, the high time frame is driving. I'm more looking at what's happening currently in front of me. I'm trying to see if our strategy aligns with this, and if it really is providing all the sort of necessary things I'm looking for. Then I'm not scared to execute, right? So yeah, I mean, we obviously have come into these areas down here, so we could also be reacting. Could be a nice springboard, or we could continue to see price action just roll over to the downside, right? Keeping in mind that we do have our weekly area, which was sitting at, I think it was, yeah, it's quite far down. But if we look maybe on the daily, this is going to be my most immediate low that I'm going to be interested to see how we react from. So if I hop back into the 15-minute time frame, that's going to be this low here. Okay, so for me now, for the most immediate price action that I'm looking at, and what I'm interested to see, is how do we react when we get down to these daily areas, right? So you can already see here, we had a bit of a reaction here on Friday. I think this was Thursday, sorry. Friday, we seem to be continuing to hold. So if I maybe just flip back to the H1, H1 is also really clean. I would maybe look at something like this. So what I normally do is I really try to isolate what's going on from, say, a daily, drill down to 4-hour, drill down to H1. This is if I'm really trying to gauge what the most recent order flow is doing. So in this instance, I'd be looking at something like this, right? And this would have been my shift over here, right? So this was my main draw on liquidity over here, which we took post, I guess pre and post FOMC. This was my other high that we took over here. So that was like, a really ideal run on liquidity over here. And if you have a look at this, so it's basically setting up like that. And that's what you're looking for, right? And then we obviously popped into this area. We ran this internal liquidity sitting over here, which then formed my my new run. Okay, and then we had this, honestly awesome move to the downside. So price action for me here is, yeah, it's really shaping up quite nicely. This is probably some of the better price action we've seen all year. And you can see how we literally just, yeah, forming our new bearish order flow chain in the sort of interim, if you want to call it that. And I would be really keen to see how price action reacts. Potentially we might see these sort of areas, considering this is my daily low, right? We might see price action kind of come back in here and start to react from these lows again, as I know that this is quite a major key point level that could sort of, yeah, cause a bit of havoc, play a bit of havoc this week. So I'd look at something like that. And let me just make this a bit more neat. So this was our low over here that we ran, and we had this, I think this was CPI. So this was the CPI move, really strong, aggressive momentum back to the upside. We then came in, retested this demand area, and then we started to trade back to the upside. That was really key. Super nice price action there too. I can maybe dive into these setups again in our next session, but yeah, this was something that I broke down for the Alchemy members as well. Really looking forward to see how price action would react out of here. This was post CPI. I think this was, we traded into this on Friday, then we saw Monday take this low, and then we continue to see more upside price action where we eventually took out these highs over here, which was really nice to see. And since we've seen that yeah, run on liquidity here, we've then started to see this bearish order flow starting to hold again. So something I'm going to be interested to see going into the new week. I'm going to be looking to see how price action opens tomorrow. If we continue to roll over, I'm going to be interested to see how price action reacts when we get down here. Do we start to see something like that and then back down, or do we see price action come in here and then really start to trade back to the upside and maybe potentially take out these highs? So that's something I'm going to be really interested to see, is how do we react out of this low here at around 1.17011. It's going to be a really key area for me personally, and I'm also going to be curious to see if we trade up early Monday into this high, and what happens when we take that high. We've got some, yeah, obviously this is my sort of high level area of interest, but if you have a look here, you've got some, yeah, really clean BPRs and displacement areas sitting open. So I'm going to be curious to see how how we react out of here. I think this would be something really nice to keep our eyes out on. I'm going to move it like that. But yeah, so for me, two things I'm looking for going into the beginning of this week are going to be, do we see price action push higher, react out of here, back to the downside, and then do we see something potentially happening here and then back to the upside where we might have this main draw open over here. So I'm going to actually mark that out. So for example, we're going to look something like that, right? Yeah, so we've taken this low here, we've taken this low here. This is my most immediate potential area of interest that I'm going to see if we can pop into this area on Monday. Maybe we get some sort of setup coming into Tuesday, or we might even get something on Monday. I really would like to see some continued shorts to the downside. Then we might chop around here mid to end next week, and then start to see some long setups presenting. And if that is the case, that would be my main draw that I'd be interested to see. And if these areas fail to hold here, then I'm going to be very curious to see how we react out of here. All right, so that's pretty much what I'm looking at going into the beginning of this week. I'm going to see that I'm actually going to also be interested to see how this high over here reacts, how we react out of that. Cool. So yeah, this is pretty much what I'm looking for this week. We've got this BPR level sitting here at around 1.80. So this would be my first internal high. If I had to just draw this out for you so you have everything marked out for the week. These are going to be my areas, right? So if price chops around, I'm going to look for this one. I'm going to see what sort of reaction we get here first. If we continue to push higher, then this is going to be my second one I'm going to look for. Ultimately, I would like to see how we react from this one if we do continue long, and then obviously these would be my external main draws on liquidity. So that might happen a little bit later in the week, but I think these three internal areas over here, they're going to be very crucial to see how price action reacts early to the beginning of next week. But yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, you guys are lucky. I'm going to send this through the Discord now, but I'm also posting it for everyone to kind of get a better understanding of my thought process, have a look at some of the trades that we take on a daily basis, how we break down price action, also give you a bit of a sneak peek into the Discord. So this is pretty much how we have everything set up. So we kind of did an all-you-can-eat, if you want to call it that, access portal. So you pretty much, for your joining fee, you'll get access to our education, where you can really dive into all the different things. We've put together a whole lot of stuff on psychology. We've built a whole lot of products and tools around how you can better manage your trade journaling, what sort of things that you can, sort of what softwares that we use, what sort of things we find really useful. We've also broken down our risk management, really understanding your exposure, how you can maximize and sort of upsize your risk and really grow your capital. Then we obviously break down things a bit more from a fundamental perspective, and then obviously the juicy stuff gets into, say, all of our technical analysis stuff, our execution strategies, our entry model techniques, why we trade the way we trade. We show you all of our data. We show you the automated system, how the automated system runs. We show you why our proof of concept works, how it's backed up by both us manually backtesting all the data that we have on different currency pairs that we've traded. We also show you how the automated system basically ticks over the same factors that we look for on a manual perspective, and what that data looks like, to really build the strength that you're looking for, right? And I think a lot of communities fail to kind of show the transparency around the proof of concept on the strategy that they're trading. We're very transparent, we're very open, we show you all the stuff that we've collected over the last couple of years, and we really try to show our journey and our experience through the different tools that we wish we had. So the whole idea behind the Alchemy is you walk in, it's a one-stop shop, everything is there for you. You can go through the different educational factors. Maybe it's stuff that you already know, maybe it's stuff that you want fine adjustments on or tweaking. That's where the execution strategies, I think, really helps, especially from the entry model techniques perspective. You can really pick which works for you, build your own data around that. We show you the different trading view setups that we have, so all of our joins, our indicators that we use. We've got some bonus lessons in, and then obviously we have a frequently questions asked portal where you can basically spot us on any questions that you might have. And then what I really like about how we've set everything up is that, which I also think is really unique, is you've got the education, so you're basically sitting with a manual, you're sitting with a manual or basically like a trading checklist, if you want to call it that, and we go through on a live day-to-day basis. We show you all of our analysis live and pretty much on a daily basis, and we've been doing this now for over a year. And you can go through all of this data. You can go and see all the different technical analysis tips and tricks that we've put through, whether it be live trade data, whether it be us just showing you potential setups on a daily basis. You can see our higher time frame overview. You can see our lower time frame. You can see our trade execution. You can literally go through everything from both myself and AC and really test the theories that we've put together for you from an execution perspective, and really use it to your advantage and your benefit, in my opinion. And I think that's really something that a lot of communities can't really show for. And I think, the open transparency is really what we're trying to show you here. I mean, even if you look at this, for example, this is us breaking down the dollar index on the weekly time frame, and if I go and show you how price action reacted out of DXY, for example, on the weekly, you won't be shocked, because we put everything out there for you. You can see the areas that we were looking at. We broke down all of this price action for you, and we have been doing this for over a year now. From both, let's say, a market analysis perspective, the new sort of journey we're finding ourselves in now is the combination of both the education and the market analysis, the live trading sessions, and really trying to build a community. So hence why things were separated in the past, and now we brought it together. That's what we want to do. So that's what we want to do with you guys. And this is just a great example of us really showing you all the stuff that we've put out in the open. I mean, here's our areas of interest that we were looking at on the weekly time frame. All of our trade ideas, why we break down things the way we do. We show weekly outlooks, trade recaps, multiple trade recaps, why we've took a trade, really understanding how things work. And more recently, we've started to bring in our live streams, and I think this is probably this is where we're having the most fun, that's for sure, because in these live streams you get to really understand what we're looking for pre-market open or during the market. You get to really understand why we took the trades that we took, and we break down the course content, and we really try to show you why we do what we do. And I think that's really key. We're trying to keep open and transparent as much as possible. We've got all these different resources that you can use. We show all of our sort of fundamental analysis, what we're looking for. We sometimes dive into alternative stocks. We look at not just for example FX. We look at futures as well. We look at potential crypto opportunities. We look at different FX pairs that maybe people want to trade. Here you can see AC ripping UCAD last week, and that's kind of what we're wanting to show. We're wanting to show you can see some of our members really enjoying things, getting those payouts, getting the achievements that they really want to do, and that's at the end of the day what we're looking for, right? That's what we want to do. We want to build a community. We want to build everyone. We want to have everyone in one central place, and we want to build a community that we can really leave some sort of legacy behind. And I think there's so much more to come. We're going to definitely look into hosting more sort of in-person web shops, webinars. We want to do some community member meetups with everyone. I currently live in Amsterdam. AC lives in UK, so we want to try give back a little bit to people as well, and really bring everyone together. We know a lot of the guys in our community come from different backgrounds, and I think that's something that we definitely wanting to, maybe that means we all in some central location one day trading from a central place. Like, that would be obviously the end goal. I think it's definitely doable. I think if we're all looking at the same sort of thing, that's really what we're aiming to achieve. So yeah, I think that's enough rambling from me. I thought it would be a great session to kind of show you weekly analysis, break down what we've looked at in the past, really show you a bit about what's inside our Discord and what's inside our offering. So if this is something that you're interested in, we do a monthly intake. So by an application, on an application by application perspective, we really want to work with people that want to work with us. We want to work with people that are willing to commit the time and effort that they need to obviously see the progression and growth that they want to. We understand the journey. We've been there ourselves, and yeah, we want to sit with you, hold your hand a little bit in the beginning, kind of get you up and running, and then yeah, let you sort of fly and do your own thing. And I think that's something that myself and AC are really looking forward to, the journey with everyone. I think it's going to be a really exciting one, and I hope to see you guys there. So if you are interested in, we are running our October intake still, so you've got about another week or so to get your applications in. You can find the link in my bio, or you can find myself and AC on socials, and we'll obviously guide you to whatever you need. So feel free to reach out to us if that's the case. And if maybe this month is not something that you can do, yeah, we're going to do this on a month-by-month basis. So yeah, into the foreseeable future. So if this is something that you're looking for, then feel free to reach out to either myself or AC and really get involved. So yeah. Hope everyone enjoyed today's session. I'm really looking forward to price action and how we can potentially capitalize on some opportunities going into the beginning of the week. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's session and learned something. I'm going to wrap it up there. Have a good rest of the Sunday, and I'll see you guys next time.